Hi, this is Scott Garibay. I want to talk today about Dungeons and Dragons and what Dungeons and Dragons is actually selling. What is its mainframe structure, right? And what is it actually delivering to the world? And I want to look at this in context to Mexican food and Indian food in America. All right, so actually, I will say I am a huge fan of Mexican food. It sometimes it shocks me how much I like Mexican food. It is no question my favorite type of food, right? I like it better than American food. I love Mexican food, right? And I was thinking, and I had a conversation. We was talking with somebody the other day, and he's kind of a foodie, goes to restaurants and stuff. And we were talking about Indian food, and he was like, "Hey, do you like Indian food?" And I said, I really don't know the answer on whether I like Indian food or not. And the reason why is the same thing happens with Indian food. I have it every 6 months. I find a dish that I really like, right? Actually, often I'll eat a dish and I didn't like that. And then I'll find a dish that I like in Indian food and I'll be like, ooh, I really like that. And then I eat Indian food 6 months later and I cannot remember what dish I liked and which one I didn't, and so the pattern starts over, right? Now, why is this, right? Well, I'm going to give you my humble opinion. You can come at me in the comments if you think I'm wrong. Mexican food has thoroughly defeated Indian food in America. And here's how you can tell, right? So, in my area, right, there are, when I eat Mexican food, I eat Mexican food in three ways, okay? I go to La Tolteca. It is the best Mexican food in my area, bar none. And it is a full-on, fully fledged Mexican restaurant. And when you go there, you're getting it literally says authentic on the sign. It's like authentic Mexican food, right? And it is. And my order is enchiladas. I get beef and cheese enchiladas. I absolutely love it. They always give you chips and salsa. The salsa is extremely fresh. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. And tons of people go there. They sit down. They have a full meal. You actually tip. There's a server. And it's a full, robust Mexican, authentic Mexican meal. And it is fantastic, right? Now, Indian restaurant, lots of places to go where I can do the same thing, okay? And there is full service, full authentic Mexican food restaurant, right? Next, when I'm in the mood for tacos, I can go to Qdoba, and I do. I go to Qdoba. It's in Springfield, Pennsylvania, and it's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love it, and it is amazing, right? But it's fast casual, right? I'm in and out. I get my tacos in 5 minutes. It's not like sitting down, having a whole minimum 45 minutes to an hour and a half. It's in and out, and I can have tacos in 20 minutes, right? And I could be out the door for half the price of what I would pay for the authentic La Tolteca meal, right? So there's full authentic Mexican, there's fast casual Mexican, and then, right, quite often for my lunch, I will go get Taco Bell, right? Now, what is Taco Bell? It's stunt Mexican, right? It's stunt food. It is stunt food in the shape of Mexican food, right? And I can get tacos there, so you can get Mexican food there, right? But the other thing is you can get like a, loco taco, you can get like a loco taco meal, right? And you're like, hey, half the items on the menu, you don't even know if they're real or not, right? Like, they have things that are not real Mexican, that are not even remotely real Mexican meals, right? Like chalupa, is that a real meal, right? And if it is, there are definitely items that are legit, totally like a taco that's made from the same thing a Dorito is made from. That's not real. Really, that's not a real Mexican. So there is stunt Mexican, right? Now, when you get to Indian food, there's no fast casual Indian in America. Not only is there Qdoba, there's also Chipotle, right? I can't name a single fast casual Indian place, not one, right? And there certainly isn't stunt Indian food, right? Food in the shape of Indian food, but that half of it isn't even real. Like it's not even it's just a made up thing, right? Like, and I love Taco Bell, and the fact, so it is non-debatable. Mexican food has thoroughly crushed Indian food in America. There's just a much higher demand for Mexican food in America than Indian food, right? So this, I think, is exactly what Dungeons and Dragons has done. It has made a Mexican food American market, right? So what is Dungeons and Dragons selling? Well, it's selling American fantasy, right? And actually, the British owned fantasy for, I think, like a millennium, right? Like King Arthur and then Tolkien. But Gary Gygax just, you're dismissed, Tolkien. I'll take it from here, right? And what you really see today with Dungeons and Dragons is you see American fantasy, and you see the pinnacle of this, right, with Legends of Vox Machina Season 2. That is American fantasy to the hilt. It is completely disconnected from anything a British person would ever even attempt to create, right? And it just feels 100% American. It feels fast and fresh and bold, right? Not like the crusty, dusty old, like, oh, here's an elf, here's a dwarf, here's a human. It's just a fundamental change from, and it takes fantasy in a new way, right? And so what is the examples? And I'll knock them through, okay? So what is the authentic Mexican of Dungeons and Dragons? That is Dungeons and Dragons today. Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen is a perfect example of that. That is authentic Dungeons and Dragons, pure Dungeons and Dragons. Echoes straight back to everything Gary ever accomplished. When you go to play Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, you will find Gary Gygax's name directly in the PHP you use to run it, right? Link straight back, bold, fat, Sharpie line to Gary Gygax. Pure, authentic Dungeons and Dragons, right? Indie, and now let's talk about the indie space, right? Zweihander, right? Very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. It's an indie game, right? And Emberwind, right? Another, and there's lots of these indie games that have this American fantasy feel, right? And really kind of bring forward this very pure American fantasy, right? A good example of this too would be Fantasy Flight's game, fantasy game, and it's been a while, but it's played with the narrative dice, right? But FFG has an American fantasy tabletop role-playing game, a freestanding system, right? And it's very good, right? And then Green Ronin Press, right? They have the Age system, very solid, American fantasy, and that is your fast casual, right? The indies are the fast casual. What is the Taco Bell of American fantasy? It is without a doubt Index Card RPG. Right now, you can buy Index Card RPG Master Edition. It is phenomenal. You can get the soft cover for less than $20, and that game is the shape of Dungeons and Dragons, but it is not Dungeons and Dragons. It runs so much faster, and you could do things you can't with it that you cannot do with Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so, Index Card RPG is truly the stunt Mexican of the tabletop role-playing game industry. And so, at this point, this is where you actually where you actually bounce out, right? And where you actually arrive with tabletop role-playing games. There is authentic Mexican, there's fast casual Mexican, and there is stunt Mexican. And it is truly what Dungeons and Dragons has done for American fantasy is incredible. It is. I don't think people really saw this coming, right? And really understand everything Dungeons and Dragons accomplishes, right? It really, Dungeons and Dragons made American fantasy beat British fantasy, and we can leave British fantasy in the dust. It's no longer really needed. Everywhere, that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.